I had to keep reminding myself. Well, I'm afraid they know too much.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's follow the field.
Yes, sir.
That's what.
I can, yeah, I'll find the, ALT. I got that, I got that. I'm getting that, I can find out. I see it too. Right, I don't remember. Never heard of it.
No, I wouldn't have. Can you rephrase it more?
Me and Andy will come over. Andy came by. You were there. Yeah, my sister.
Yeah.
We're gonna call this special meeting to order. We'll be covering our 2022 draft audit this afternoon. I wanna at least make a couple statements here, so back in, 2018, 2017, we had some, serious issues with the audit, a little different than what we're going through today. But anyway, there's some things that kind of, that escalated, ended up bringing in a, grand jury. And the reason I bring this up, because I was kind of blamed for not passing the information to the rest of the council. Because we get certified letters, usually in October and in November, if you're negligent. And so, back then I was, a little dumber at it than I am now, but, I had, given all the information to our finance director and all our information to our city manager, interim city manager, each time in which they shared it with the council. The council denied it, tried to make it sound like I'd left everybody in the unknown, which was, thank God for the grand jury, because it cleared me pretty much. But anyway, so when we got done, we did a resolution. It was 2018-15. And that resolution is that any letters or particularly certified or whatever that comes in from another government agency, it has a protocol which it goes to the clerk to make sure that the manager has a copy, that the attorney has a copy, and whoever it's directed to, plus the council. And so, right before our meeting last week, I saw the draft for the first time of the audit, and that was only like a day or so before we had our meeting. I think it was Wednesday of last week was the very first time I saw a certified letter addressed to the mayor back in September 22. That's when it was written. Now, we probably got it on the 25th or whatever. But that's the first time I saw it was last Wednesday. So, you know, it's one thing, I understand that the council here was not around when we did that resolution. There's a good reason why you wouldn't maybe pop your memory. But just, you know, just the commonality, when you get a certified letter to the mayor ought to see it. I never saw it. And then there were emails from the auditing state auditors that went to 2 or 3 people here that I never saw that either. And so I'm just saying, don't try and press this on me. I've already been down that road before. I just want to make that statement clear, and I'll pass it to Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I make a statement? Sure.
Yeah.
You kind of brought me into that. Back when, in 17, 18, I got proof of it, paperwork. They sent, we'd send, we talked to the finance director, the council would. They'd say, well, they still want more information. During this time, they had sent letters, and we have proof who received them. And so, and who signed for them, I'm talking about. And later they changed about that system. The state went through it. So we lost like 222,000, but we didn't. I guess, believed the finance director. Council did. So then it popped up that you had 330 something. I may be wrong on the figure. 330,000 got a check in, a special check, and for whatever, all I think. And so they couldn't find it. They couldn't find out what happened to it. So the word went out that, you know, I guess everyone thought we got it. So when that happened, they couldn't find it. Well, immediately, that's when it went to a grand jury, not because of the other. That was just, that didn't mean you go to jail, or more or less. But anyway, they you know, the state attorney, that's when they went to call for grand jury. Well, they found it. The finance director, one of them, had needed the money. That's where we were wrong. That was changed later. That they would take this. In other words, they paid bills with it. So that was found. So we was all clear as far as something illegal on that. And the word's still out, you know. I know, say, well, they must have got it, you know. But in the grand jury, and I'm not. He made a mark about work, you know, talking to the mayor. It reads. You can go back and read. Some of you have. it said that the city council was said the mayor, who we were, and the our ex-finance director, for whatever reason, they withheld information, and others withheld information from council. I'm putting you, as he brought it up, I mean, that's what I remember about it. And so, and it was all turned out, but it was that's my remember. That's what I remember. That's all I got to say.
Well, I'm not down to-
Nothing personal about that now, I'm just
Sure,
what I
understand.
remember, you know.
I think it was emails that they found, which Mr. Henry did not get, but the other four did. But anyway, so I just want to make sure I'm on record here so that, you know, somebody doesn't come to me and say, how come you didn't tell us you had this letter? You know, late September, but I never saw it until this past week. So we'll move forward and see what we can do to clean up everything. Mr. Mike.
All right, Council, I want to give you kind of a sequence of events to lead up to where we're at tonight, this afternoon. So this audit is for fiscal year 21-22, 2021-2022. During that year, we had a finance director, Ms. Deborah Gibson, that was here about half of that year. In June of 22, she resigned. Reconciliations have been completed through April of that year of 22. The council at that time voted to hire Thomas Hal Ferguson to come in and complete reconciliations through the end of September. So that took us to, or the city through the end of September. In January of 23, a special meeting was held to discuss the functions of the finance department. Guidance was to increase staffing of the department and receive assistance from firms for a succession plan for the department was granted. Morgan Hewlin was voted as interim finance director during this meeting. That was January 31st of 2023. May the 22nd of 23, council voted for Morgan Hewlin as the finance director. So February the 27th of this year, I started work with the city. Ever since that time, we've been cleaning up a mess in a variety of different areas, and that continues until this day today. I stated in my second meeting, which was on the meeting I started was February 27th. We had another meeting, a special meeting on March 2nd, that it was my priority to for the audit to get it completed on time. So we roll over to this year, and we had contracted with Warren Averett to do that audit. Thomas L. Ferguson their contract was terminated before they finished what the council decided for them, what it was for them under contract to do. So we had a gentleman from Warren Averett, Adam Nelson, was doing our audit for the city, had been doing that for numerous years. Adam had met with the council, met with us, provided an update regarding the audit from the time he started to the middle of the summer, saying everything was on track and on time, which we conveyed to the council. In June the 23rd, Adam gave an update to the council, saying the completion date of 7/31. That it was going to be a little late, but that was the new completion date, was 7/31. And we continued to work toward that date. July the 13th, Adam Nelson was no longer employed with Warren Averett. July the 24th, Kevin with Warren Averett informed council of council's resignation of Mr. Adams and updated the council that the 7/31 completion date was overpromised. In August, We had a 17th of August, we had a meeting with the auditors, which was Warren Averett, and they presented us with the draft audit. August the 23rd, we met with auditors by phone and legal to discuss the draft as it was presented to us. August the 24th, we began meeting with council members regarding the audit status. August the 24th, we also received a listing that we asked for from Warren Averett of 12 outstanding items that was addressed in the audit, that we received those 12 outstanding items. We asked for it. They were not included with the initial draft audit. On the 25th, we emailed Thomas Hal Ferguson requesting items related to their contract services that we paid them, the city paid them to do. That brought us to September. The 7th of September, we met with auditors and discussed the 12 items that was on that, and they informed us that we said, well, what if we can get portions of those, but some of those are in the hands of Thomas Hal Ferguson, and we've reached out to them to get that information. And they informed us that it was pretty much we had to get all 12 of them or nothing. A portion of them would not do. On September the 11th, Thomas Hal Ferguson provided a response to items requested, not much direction to given. Basically, it was outside of their scope or didn't get it to it because of their contract termination. They was not happy because of the termination. September the 12th, we met with Councilwoman Headland because she was ill and we could not meet with her before then. She rescheduled our appointment. On September the 20th, we had an interview for accountant positions based on the direction of the council, trying to staff up. We also, during that time, we communicated with the Auditor General's office to try to get a little bit of direction since we could not get the information from Thomas Hal Ferguson. We spoke with them a couple of different times, and they basically said that they would not communicate with us, that it would have to go to the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee when they convened, and then their directions came back down to the AG's office. So since that time that the audit was began, staff has been working consistently to get this finished. We have been through hurdles, we have jumped through hoops and done what we could and been totally committed to get this done in a timely manner. So we have representatives here from Warren Averett. We have representatives here from Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. And what I would like to do is ask Mr. Ben Kincaid with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram if he would come up and answer a couple of questions from me based on what they have been doing. You could state your name, please, sir, for the council.
Ben Kincaid with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram.
Mr. Kincaid, based on what you have been doing and your company has been doing for the city, is it your belief that you could, of the 12 items that is referenced in the audit, that you could provide those 12 items and sufficient documentation to Warren Averett, even the items that we could not get from Thomas Hal Ferguson? Could you provide that by the end of this calendar year to satisfy what was in the draft audit for those 12 items?
Yes, based on my understanding of the 12 items and looking at several of those items, some of those items will be easier said to do. Some of those will take a little longer of time to obtain the information, but I believe we can suffice those requests.
So during your everything you've been going through and looking at the city's information, have you seen anything in there that was missing money? Have you seen anything that was grossly negligent or horrible that would be a serious detriment to the city?
I can answer that in the scope of what we've been doing, which is primarily bank reconciliations for this fiscal year. And we have not seen anything that would lead us to believe that any of those exist. We have found errors or adjustments that we've proposed to the city when we communicated those. None of those would be fall into the category of items that you just mentioned. There are items that can be addressed, and we've spoken with the city, and they've committed to making some of those adjustments moving forward.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So council, what I'm saying tonight is we've finally have the appropriate staff on board to get the city where it needs to be. Took a little bit of time. With this budget approved, we was able to hire staffing. That's what the council recommended. We'd also heard that from our accountants to do that as well, to staff up in some areas. Finance director's been doing a number of different things that took her away from her primary job, just trying to do other duties. So we have an accountant on board that started the 1st of October to be able to help us get to where we need to be and to make 2023 audit a totally different thing from what it is now. So we've been building a team to get these things corrected. Staff is totally committed to getting whatever needs corrected, whatever procedures need to be put in place to correct what's happened in the past. Again, this was 21, 22 audit. And I think we have the correct staff that's committed to taking it to the finish line and getting it finished here with us tonight. So I would hope that Warren Averett would have the same level of commitment as we have in Carr Riggs and Ingram to help us get to the finish line, to not deliver the draft audit as it is with those 12 items that we can clear up. And I think it will take us to the end of this calendar year to do that. We have communicated with the AG's office. We received information from them that said to give them an update by November the 17th. We are prepared to give them an update by November the 17th, which is what they are looking for. They're looking for compliance. They're looking to get it in a timely manner, which all the communication we've had, that's what they stated. So we've involved everybody that we could possibly involve to get it to the finish line where it needs to be. And we're totally committed, and staff is committed to doing that. So I would leave it up to council, or maybe if council wants to ask Warren Averett some questions. But that's pretty much where we stand at this time.
Councilman, any of you want questions? Got a question for? Okay, all right, with what particular group? All right, if you go, please come.
Kevin Boyer with Warren Averett CPAs. I also have Angela Ballant with me. She's our quality control review partner for the city of Defuniak. Krista McAllister had a previous commitment today. She did the bulk of the work on the audit. That's why she could not be here tonight, but we're here to answer any questions that, attempt to answer any questions that you may have. Well, I did have this document passed out. It's on the PDF as well, and basically it's basically a recap of where we are. Obviously, our draft in its current form is proposing a disclaimer of opinion, and we mentioned the list of 12 items has been talked a lot about, and the pervasive reasons for us arriving at a proposed disclaimer of opinion are outlined in this document. I don't necessarily need to go through each and every one of them, but if you have any questions pertaining to any one in particular, then we can address that. Sure.
My question is the disclaimer opinion, let's say that CRI does what they just said by November the 17th. Is the disclaimer opinion going to change?
If we're provided the documentation that we're missing based on these 12 items summarized in this document, if we're provided that information, we can perform audit procedures on that to verify that everything is correct. The opinion will change.
So I heard a November 17th deadline, so that's really fast. I don't know what CRI can do for.
No, the November, for the record, the November 17th is when we have to provide the state a response as to our status. Earning the audit will provide them a written update. I believe Carl Riggs, the question was was the end of the year. And I'm seeing a nod in the back for the record from Carl Riggs.
So am I to understand this audit would be open through the end of the year? As,
Well, I think there are two functions there. There's Carl Riggs has to get their side of things that they're saying they can get done. Then they have to turn it over to you, right? Ms. Bauer, for you to be able to perform audit function. So
If they're finished by December 31, then the 1st of January, we'll take the information, perform the audit procedures that we feel like need to be performed based on our auditor judgment, and then evaluate, keeping you guys in the loop the whole time, what changes that makes to our opinion.
my biggest concern is the disclaimer is gonna weaken our position to borrow money to get grants, those types of things. So of course we would love to see that change, but then my next concern is compounded by, y'all are working on 22. What happens to 23? 23's due. And I heard last meeting, we're still in April. We still haven't recorded transactions from April of 2023 through the period in September. So if everybody's working on finishing up 22, that compounds the problem. So that's a problem, a separate problem in and of itself.
I just was confirming with Morgan, I don't believe Lord Aver really can talk about the audit for.
It was just a statement from me.
Well, they can't really address it because they're not, we have to do competitive procurement for the audit that would be due next June of 2024 is the one you're referring to. They're not actually assigned to do it. They couldn't be working on it right now.
Correct.
There was some dispute also on the answers. There were 4 findings that I was reading. One had open and the other ones had concur. Did you receive communication from the city or was that a typo on the draft?
The wording concur was just copied over from the prior year letter. Yes, they should have all been open. Correct.
So, thus far, the list of items that we're talking about, we have, since that's been given to the city in August, we've not been able to provide anything. But that's what's being promised now.
We have not received any information pertaining to these items.
Okay. That's what we're promising now, apparently, through the work of CRI.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yes.
What specifically, other than those 12 items, is that, and is that going to then finalize the 22 audit? At what point in time after January can we anticipate a final product?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the evidence that is provided. It's just very difficult for us to be able to say definitively, this is the timeline because it's all going to be based on the quality of evidence that city personnel and Carl Riggs and Ingram are able to assemble. It may be that, not everything on the list can be assembled. I know that based on a preliminary view, that is the assumption or the intention. However, we will look at whatever's provided, and if we can overcome, audit is a science and it's an art. There's a lot of it's based on judgment. So we've got to be able to look at what has been assembled, test what has been assembled, and determine if we can overcome where we are today. I would say at a minimum, it's going to be at least 40 hours of work, just from the standpoint of, performing the audit procedures. If we can get comfortable making, I mean, the documentation in our files alone, is very comprehensive, as well as, modifications to the opinion letter itself. So maybe best case scenario, the end of January, but I do not want to make that commitment to this council. It really depends on the evidence that is received and the testing that is done.
Let me ask you kind of a general question. When I started here in 13, I did diddly squat about audits, but they had, first one I really, sort of paid attention to was it was in 14, but it was for the 2012, 2013 year. And we were late, we were pretty late. I believe by the end of that year, by the end of 2014, to the next one, we were late again, and we got it in December, and they ended up firing that finance director, but we didn't get penalized. I think it was something about what the dates. I guess Auditor General, they have their session or whatever, and then the next year we were late again, but we went over their threshold. I don't know if it was the end of December or the early January, and they were talking about withholding half-cent sales tax. And then the next year, and of course, I'm here being told, don't worry about that. And I'm talking about our manager and our finance director. They weren't really worried about that. And as far as I know, they knew what they were doing. I certainly didn't. But anyway, the next year had the same language in there about, you could lose, they could withhold some half-cent sales tax, whatever. And then by 2017, at the end of 2017, we found out that they really did withhold some of the sales tax money, around $110,000 each year, and that was back then. And then, but it was like these dates sort of shifted, but it seemed like you had to be into December before you actually were going to lose any money. And I don't know if there are dates certain that where you actually lose or could lose some of your half-cent sales tax. December, January, it seemed like, if you got things done by November, it was really, you maybe got a little bad review, but you didn't lose money. When do you start losing money?
I cannot answer that question. Our deadline is under the understanding that the audit is supposed to be submitted to the Auditor General by June 30th.
Yeah.
The Auditor General will, if you have a finding that repeats 3 years in a row, the same finding that repeats, they normally also will want you to take more affirmative action or make, respond directly to what you're going to do as governance to, prevent that finding from happening again. Now, there are certain findings like segregation of duties and small governmental entities where they just basically say, we can't have the appropriate segregation of duties. And sometimes that is a statement that the Auditor General is willing to, accept. But in terms of when funding is stopped or held back, I cannot answer that.
This was not funding. This was our tax dollars.
Right, your tax dollars.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sorry, Mayor, but I cannot definitively answer that question.
I still have.
Go ahead.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Who's recognized?
Oh, go ahead.
What's that back there? So you mentioned 40 hours of additional work. So are you prepared to submit an additional change request for that? Are we going to be billed for that?
Yes, until again, we need to see, that was just a minimum that I kind of threw out there, just in terms of knowing what we would need to do in terms of documentation and the work in our file. Until we receive the items from management, we're not going to be able to provide, an estimate of cost to move forward.
We as a council have been repeatedly told by your firm that the audit was on track. And we even agreed to additional change orders for this additional testing and additional time to keep the audit on track. And here we are at the end of the year, and you're telling us that it's going to be another minimum of 40 hours? When do we get off the treadmill?
I mean, we have a timeline of, what took place when, when we came to council at the end of June. There were a number of items that were needed to finish the audit. We have some correspondence between ourselves and city personnel on, what was needed. We've really got the bulk of the additional information, and a lot of that centers around the revenue. And the revenue's been a big issue in the audit. So when we came in June, we talked about the fact that the revenue was not appropriately classified. And we were still trying to work through outside confirmations where the revenue needed to be reported in the financial statements. So we weren't able to start that revenue testing until the July timeframe. We kind of went back and looked. I mean, we spent 300 hours between July 15th and August 17th trying to do everything that we could do once we got the information to do the testing, to try to develop alternate procedures, to come up, with a strategy that didn't result in a disclaimer of an opinion. But I mean, we did everything we could, and this is where we had to land based on the 39 audit adjustments that were posted, and the lack of evidence to support certain journal entries that we've identified in our documentation to you all.
I'd like to ask the CRI fellow a question, if he could come back up.
Sure.
It's Mr. Ben.
Yes, Ben Kincaid.
Could I ask you a question? I understood that the council gave CRI a contract to reconcile bank statements for 2023.
That's correct.
Okay, but now that I understand, did you get a change order to yours? Are you gonna be charging us additional monies for stopping that work so that you can address the items that currently exist for Warren Averrett's purposes?
Yeah, so currently, we've only been engaged to do bank reconciliations underneath the PO that has been issued. We have not, and we've had correspondence with city personnel regarding this. We have not billed the full amount of that time frame. We've been for the last, I think, 3 or 4 months. Our agreed upon fees have actually been about $1,000 to $1,500 less each month, just because we've been able to do things more efficiently for the city. Mm-hmm. So there's some balance left over there that can be used. That's the council and the city's desire to resolve to allow us to help the city in resolving these questions.
And how many hours, will you remind me, that you need to address their list of items?
I have not proposed a list of hours in relation to that. Some of those items, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be fairly easy. And I'll say easy with air quotes there in terms of there's still time necessary to do those. But there are certain items that we just don't have an answer as far along it's going to take us to do those. One of those items would be the due to, due froms. My understanding in looking at the work papers that were provided by Thomas Howell Ferguson, they were essentially using the due to, due froms as a plug account. If they couldn't figure out where it went, they just put it there. And so it's going to take some time for us to unwind that and figure out where that is. And I'm not going to have, I don't have an estimation for you of how long that will take. We can certainly provide a quote to the city for that if that's the desire.
Bring it back at our next meeting, is that possible? I think the next time we meet November 13th. Do you have an estimate?
I can certainly have an estimate by that.
Oh, okay. Mayor, can I continue with Warren Averett? Can I had items on mine. One of the biggest things I'm concerned about is these bank reconciliations and things not being recorded in the general ledger. So I'm concerned. I understand cash is balanced. The reconciliations are done through September 30, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. There's another side. It's either revenue or an expense or paying a debt. So my concern is when making decisions here at the council, I need, reliable, timely, accurate data to follow upon. And the reserves, how comfortable are you that the reserves, as they're stated in these financial statements, committed, unspent, assigned, reserved, and then there's just the general, whatever's left over. Is those paragraphs accurate? Can I rely on that when I'm making decisions?
The, the overall cash balances, again, are correct because we've confirmed cash, we've performed testing over it. But because of the nature of the expense side and the revenue side, that all flows into equity.
Yes.
And so, we're still not sure, whether the equity role is correct or not until we get the additional information to make sure the revenues, the transfers are all recorded appropriately and can look at that, then we can make that determination.
Okay.
I'm there real quick, before we get off that topic. I just want to reiterate, you're saying that you have tested cash and that cash is not missing, that there's no cash missing.
Nothing came to our attention that would cause us to believe that any cash is missing.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things that's written in here is we don't have good, proper internal controls. And so because that all runs to equity, my concern is, I'm not quite sure if I saw one of the items here with transfers is 6 million. On page 3, one example of a prior year, we noted approximately $6 million in transfers out of the sewer fund, but yet in this current year, there's 0. That kind of stuff is alarming to me because when staff makes a transfer or pays a bill or takes in a receipt, am I to understand? I just want to make sure I'm understanding. They're not recording it in the general ledger. We're just doing it and then we find out about it because of the bank statement. Is that accurate?
But my understanding with the work that Thomas Al Ferguson did and Carl Riggs, Ben's here, he can help answer that question. But the entries were being made to reflect the proper cash balance to get the bank account reconciled.
But they were just
But
plugging
the
it.
corresponding revenue expense transfer wasn't necessarily getting recorded as it should have.
Okay. And that's concerning to me because that means that equity is off, which means our reserve numbers are not accurate, which means we're relying on this. And that leads to a bigger problem, which is cash flow. We could potentially be using monies in our checkbook to pay our bills that belong to a specific issue, like it's a grant money or whatever, to pay our current liabilities because that number is really small.
That is a real possibility, yes.
And I have a problem with that, especially because how far behind we are already. So it just keeps seeing a snowball of items that are very, very concerning. Here's another big thing that bothered me. On page 45 of the draft financial statements is compensated absences. And compensated absences normally fluctuate due to the hiring, leaving employees, earning a vacation time. The rate of pays for everybody are different. Each employee earns, so it stuck out like a sore thumb to me. If you look in the additions column and the reduction column, they're exactly the same number. And that's impossible. It's absolutely with as many people has come and gone that I don't know what the percentage would be, but is that a mistake? Perhaps?
I'll have to check on that number. What page did you say?
45.
My guess, my assumption is compensated absence is not an area. So it could be not adjusted, but it's not part of our 12-point item because we just, as auditors, again, aren't jumping in.
And just so we're clear, there's been so much activity, I'm not quite sure. I would like to know the accuracy of that number. So A lot of things have changed in the area of personnel, and I think that's of importance to a reader that relies on that data. And then note 12, prior period adjustments, very abnormal. Those only happen in extraordinary circumstances. Do you know in the last 7 years, it's $400,000 each time, here, there, and then we've had a previous discussion about that. Could you please identify what is causing that?
Specifically, that $414,000 is the first item on the second page of our list of
Okay, I saw
items
that.
related to the health reimbursement account. We need more information on that to determine if it truly is a prior period adjustment or if there's any other adjustments that need to be made to
And
that
then
account.
what is the 72,000? Because it says the cash balance is off by 72,000. So does that mean that our general ledger cash balance is short, or is it over and the health statement is short? Do you recall?
There's a couple of components to that. One, you have a cash balance that's managed by a third-party administrator. And so the cash, and then you also have a liability to offset the cash. And so it's kind of an in and an out. The cash balance reported by the TPA didn't match the cash balance in the general ledger.
Who has more? Do you know? That third party did?
And that's one of the items we're asking for.
I saw that.
That
Yes, thank
and
you.
what's in
I think that was at the top of one of your lists, so thank you. I just have a few more, so thank you. I really appreciate you answering these questions. Okay, this one's going to be a big one. This has been bothering me for a while now. On page 4, the financial statement overview paragraph. And then again, it's going to be repeated again on page 23, I think it is. But I need to understand, according to the state's accounting manual and a fund that starts with a 4, are all proprietary funds, water, sewer, all our utilities, but then we got the airport. But in the financial statements, it is a major component of the city. I don't understand that sentence, why we're not included, why that's being rolled into the general fund as if it's a general function of the city's normal day-to-day business, because that is an enterprise fund. And I'm not quite sure why we're not segregating those out like we should.
In a separate proprietary fund?
Well, it's in a separate fund as far as the general ledger is concerned. It's in
Right.
440, but it's not on the financial statements. It's rolled into the general.
The general fund.
And I don't understand that concept.
The only thing I can say in relation to
And it's
that.
a major fund, by the way.
Yeah. I believe it's been reported that way for a long time. And
Which I could understand because it never used to be major. It's only recently when we've been spending millions and millions of dollars, does it automatically exceed now almost a general?
yeah,
And it's total dollars. So that makes it a major, that in and by itself. So is that potentially incorrect and it needs to be segregated out on these financials?
I mean, I think it could be segregated. I wouldn't say it's incorrect. Could it be separated on its own? Yes, it could. And that's the prerogative of the city to make that decision.
Okay. Okay. So if they needed to do that for next year because of the money that's going into the new terminal, I mean, it's going to be significant. And if that's the case, then all they have to do is segregate it out then? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
It wouldn't be a problem for the auditors
It should
to
not be.
segregate it
It
out. It
should not
actually
be
would
a
be more
problem.
compliant with all the rules and regulations that surround it.
Yeah, what I would suggest in your note that you want.
I gotcha. I see. Okay. There was just one more thing I think I saw on here, and then I'm done. I don't have any other questions. The transfers in and out, are they related to the due to from accounts? In your all's opinion, based on what you've seen? I've not seen details, so I don't know.
I would say some are, they're not all related, but some of the due to, due from activity is related to transfers.
Right. And are those getting reported each time they're made?
Again, there were entries made to the due to, due from accounts. We don't know whether or not the offsetting entries were correct or made to the correct accounts in every case. Very similar to the transfer issue that we talked about earlier.
I don't have any further questions, but Mayor, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I believe this motion that I'm about to make concerns the whole community, and I think it'll get to the root cause of all our financial issues, and it'll be reliable and relevant. But I'd like to make a motion to invite the Florida Inspector General in to do a complete audit and to address some of our concerns. It would be free, it'd be independent, it wouldn't interfere with staff during their routine business. The state has access to all the rules, regulations, other state agencies that they might need to consult with. And I think then we can put this to rest with the timing of what we just suggested, that CRI. So that would be my motion, is to invite the Inspector General to come and do an audit, an independent audit of our books and
The
records,
Inspector
not
General
an
or the
audit.
Auditor General?
I'm sorry?
The Inspector General or
They're both the same. I don't, the Auditor, Inspector General, it's a title under the Auditor General.
the Office of the Auditor General?
Yes.
So you're making that request.
Yeah, and I just think they're independent, it'd be free. It would put a lot of concerns that the public has to rest. And I don't think we have anything to lose. I think we have nothing but a benefit that will come from it. So, and that type of audit would be different than what CRI is doing or Warren Averett. So I would like to make that proposal.
I'll simply note that the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee will likely make the determination of who the Auditor General is tasked to come do those reviews of based on submittals that everybody has to make by November 17th. So come their December meeting of the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee, they may well be doing that. The council wants us to include that in our letter that we invite such a discussion. That's certainly within the council's purview.
I have a motion on the
It's-
table though. Is that like legal advice that you're telling us?
I'm letting you know whether or not the motion, I am advising that as a simple matter, that that's something the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee is going to be taking up. And so the reason the Auditor General has not been willing to talk to us at this point in time is that they're required under their authority by the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee to come in here. They can't already be doing business with us or they would lose their independence.
So I'll modify my motion to make the same motion, but on November the 18th. So that suffice?
And all I'm suggesting is we can ask, but they may well say we aren't able to provide any commitments until we understand whether we're being tasked by the state to come in here and do this, is all I'm saying.
Well, and then our hands would be tied, but it's still an opportunity for us to, as a group, as a function here from 5 of us, to say, hey, this is free, we don't have to do anything, and it's not going to interfere with what's going on. But I think it would put a lot more confidence in, because again, even outside of this issue that we discussed today, we still have a significant issue with 2023 not being bid. We don't have an auditor. The books and records are still not even beyond April of 2023. We're working with 2022, and 2023 most likely is going to be late, just like this one is. And it's unacceptable to me as one person. And we deserve better and we can do better. And I think it would benefit us all.
Okay. Questions?
Actually, I'd like to clarify
In terms of what kind of burden that would put on staff, because I don't see how that could possibly not tax staff when we're trying to finish up 2 other audits. And the idea that we would be saving time and moving forward faster by making them do something else, yet something else, doesn't really jive with any sense of reality as I understand it. So I could use some feedback on that. I mean, how is this not going to interfere with staff? From anyone that could give me
No.
some guidance.
When the auditor general would come in, if they don't do the same type of audit that's being done right now with the financial side of the house. And should they want to do certain or similar things, all those records are already pulled and set aside. So they're not going to be bothering staff. They're not going to be inquiring of staff and
I don't see how,
utilizing their time like you do in a financial audit.
if we don't have the staff to put together the request that we're currently trying to do, how are they going to provide that material to another party at the same time? So be providing documentation to 3 different parties at the same time, replicating multiple tasks, replicating staff time. How could they do it without any interviews whatsoever? It's not credulous.
I didn't say they couldn't do it without interviews, because they will have to do interviews.
So it's gonna
I'm
take time.
just saying it won't interfere with their day-to-day, what they're
Those 2
doing.
things don't match. How can they have interviews and take up
Look,
that
I
time,
just
but it's not
find
gonna
it that
interfere?
we're always trying to, I think it's a win-win. If you choose not to
If,
agree with me, I'm okay with that.
well, we already have a situation where we're trying to get these entities to finish up the tasks that we've already paid for and we've already tried to get accomplished. If we have any significant findings, I'll be the first to support bringing in additional auditing as needed. But to make an assumption that everything's wrong because we're late and have missed reconciliations, when a lot of the findings that we agree with or that we believe we would agree with are really having to do with a lack of staff, which we've been addressing, it doesn't make sense. It just seems like we're just desperately trying to find anything we can that's wrong so we can just latch on to it. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the intent of these, and I have a problem with it.
Go ahead. You don't want the public. All right, we'll begin with,
Nay.
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 Yes.
Nay.
all right. All right, so that doesn't carry. Any other action from the council?
Back in July, we had recommended additional staffing levels to get things up. There was actually a conversation to continue with Carr Riggs and Ingram through the end of the year for reconciliations. And the council had discussions back and forth about what is that the proper course based on the cost and whether or not it's more cost efficient to hire our own staff internally versus contracting that out. And I think it just kind of left off there, if I remember correctly. I know since that time and throughout this whole year, one of the biggest concerns is staffing levels. Do we have the staffing to do the job? And with some of the existing staff going out for FMLA, we keep bringing that back up time and time again because it's important. It's important to know that you're making strides to actually fix these problems, but it is going to take time. And if we do stop them at every curve, then they can't accomplish these goals in a timely manner. And a lot of this, we've addressed issues with the auditing firms that's been, or the different financial firms that have been here, THF, Warren Averett, and then talking to Carr Riggs and Ingram. The strides are being taken. It's just these little hiccups and where we trip along the way, it seems like, because something's went wrong. If we could get everything on track, I think that we could get this audit in, and then I wouldn't have a problem if they want to come in and audit us later on, once we've had the opportunity to actually fix what we've been trying to do all along. It's not that anybody's trying to hide anything, cover up anything. It's just let you get the work done and do it. They just now hired an accountant to come in here and do this, but rather than assume that that nobody's on the up and up, let them do their job and get this thing done. That's just my advice.
All right, so Mike, will you kind of recap the activity we plan to do? Condensed model.
We're going to continue to work with car rigs to get the information finished to address the 12 items. If they need to readdress a change order, if we run out of credits that we might have with them, we'll address that and bring it back to the council. But we will let them continue on their track, and then once they get the 12 items addressed that's in the audit, then they can get those to Warren Averett and continue those communications with them. We will send a letter prior to the 17th to the state to let them know what we are doing, that we're working on it, where we're at. And then we will go from there to hopefully get this turned in as soon as we can. But we'll keep council apprised along the way, and we'll keep the state apprised along the way as to what we're doing.
Thing I'll add that wasn't mentioned here today, but the council knows is occurring, is we're working on your RFP, RFQ technically, to procure an auditor. Obviously, we're under a little bit more stringent process than what we've done in some prior years with the selection committees, things like that. So that's getting ready to live.
Is there any public comment for this meeting? All right, we'll close the floor for public comment, and we will call this meeting adjourned.